Hi. So this is just a short think piece to discuss why we think nature-based businesses are so important and why more notice, more attention needs to be paid to them. Um, so particularly, I suppose, here in Britain, conservation started out coming from us, an area where we were trying to preserve areas of land for wildlife, nature reserves, special places, where we focus on those spaces, specifically managing them, supporting them for wildlife. And then slowly over time that developed into looking at connecting those spaces, and particularly in recent years focusing on agriculture as a major land user, trying to encourage more wildlife friendly spaces within the agricultural system, creating better linkages between these special places, these reserves and so on. And much of the funding has been very much an external process. It's been grants and support from government and market forces and so on to try and encourage wildlife. That in itself is a good thing. Um, However, it doesn't get right down to the root of how our countryside formed. Our countryside is largely the way it is, both in Britain and in many other parts of the world, um, because of the way people have behaved. First of all, collecting food and shelter, um, provisions, and then after over time starting to actually grow their own crops and expand what they were doing. And as they're producing more than they need, or they've got more of a particular resource than they need, then obviously they trade it. So fundamental to our uh, countryside and therefore our wildlife has been trade and business right the way back through time. And even in Neolithic period in Britain, um, uh, people were trading things like flint all over Northern Europe and beyond. So it's not a recent phenomenon. Wildlife has then adapted with people, and it's been largely business that's been behind how that's developed. So what we're suggesting is that it shouldn't all be about externally funded opportunities. More recently, we've got a really exciting developments around things like carbon trading. We've got entrepreneurs and corporates looking to put money into big wilding projects. All of this is really exciting and very positive. However, it shouldn't be only about that, and particularly where people live. We need to be thinking about how we're working with and for the local people as well as the wildlife of that area, and underpinning how that wildlife has existed over many thousands of years as how people have interacted with it. Okay, that's probably gone out of balance now. Well, it has gone out of balance now. And what we've got to do is start looking at the nature-based businesses and the nature-based supply chains, the businesses that are working and helping and supporting nature. And if we can encourage and develop those better, then hopefully we can also encourage and support the wildlife we want to sustain as well. In our experience, nature-based business and working with businesses, particularly from the environmental sector, is fairly poor. There's a tradition over more recent years, maybe say the last 20 or 30 years, of working with corporates and larger organisations, but working with smaller businesses and particularly nature-based businesses within countryside areas isn't really very well developed. There's quite a lot of production of things like directories and support material for businesses in an area, so it supports the local economy. But what it doesn't do is particularly focus on the ones that work with and for wildlife and for nature. It tends to be the businesses in that area. So it's not really getting down to the fundamental link between the countryside and the wildlife, the nature, the environmental issues, and the local businesses and the local economy. And that link is severely broken, and it's something that needs to have a lot more attention paid to it. Um, Therefore, we believe in Nearly Wild that you need to think a lot more at how countryside works, how the local economy works, and specifically focusing on really understanding the nature-based businesses and the nature-based supply chains and looking at how you can support and work with those. The businesses themselves need to be able to realise the opportunity of having a USP, a unique selling point of being a nature-based business. And in Nearly Wild, we work with both the businesses and the organisations of the area to try and help make that happen. and we look at where the gaps are. So one of the things we did some years ago, actually while we were starting to think about developing Nearly Wild, was we developed a thing called Nearly Wild Camping. That's now a fully self-sustaining member-owned cooperative. That was filling a gap, it was filling a niche, but it's creating a whole set of other opportunities around and on the back of it. We believe there is an opportunity to do a lot more with nature-based business, and we believe that it could help and work for the benefit of nature. There'll be more information on the website and on our YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks very much. We hope you found this useful.